Good afternoon, fellow students, and especially to Sir Koramba. On behalf of our group, I'd like to welcome you today to tackle about Lesson 12 in Community Engagement, which is the social justice. So our objectives for today, or what we will discuss, are the following. What is social justice? Social justice according to the Constitution and examples of social justice in the Philippines. So let me ask you guys a question. Was there a situation in your life where you felt there was justice? Feel free to answer in the comment box below. For me, there was one time that I bought something that was the only last display. And suddenly, there was this woman who interfered and claimed that she is a regular customer daw, and she should be the one who can buy it first. But an employee didn't grant her favor because I went there earlier than her. You know, it felt satisfying because not just because you're regular doesn't mean you have control over everyone. It doesn't work that way because we are granted with equality. And how about when you felt that life was unjust? There was a particular situation that I was treated unfairly even if I did something that is clearly better than anyone, but still, they didn't recognize or even appreciate for what I did, and that made me devastated. So let's jump to social justice. What is social justice? It describes the relationship between the individual and the society as fair and just. It is the idea that everyone should have the same fundamental rights regardless of their race, religion, sexuality, socioeconomic status, or any characteristic. So what do we mean by fair? It means everyone gets what they need based on visible gaps in the opportunity. And sometimes people will have different needs because we are unique individuals. For example, some children wear glasses and some don't. That's not equal, but it's fair because not everyone needs glasses to see and learn best. For the justice, it is the quality of being just, right, or righteousness, equitableness, or moral rightness. It also directly connected to human rights. It is true that it is also the main goal of human rights. However, human rights are not just values. Human rights are set out in law, and they set the rules on how the state should treat individuals. This means human rights can be a powerful tool to enable us to achieve social justice, anchoring our actions in the law rather than values alone, which can be stretched or become optional, especially in difficult times or situations. It can also mean equality in wealth distribution, opportunities, and other social privileges. In social justice, it doesn't matter if what is your stand in life, because everyone deserves equal distribution and opportunities. In other countries, it is described as the process of making sure that the members of the society fulfill their societal roles and receive their due from the society. However, we do not expect people to behave randomly, but to behave in certain ways in particular situations. Each social situation entails its own particular set of expectations about the proper way to behave. Such expectations can vary from group to group. One way in which these expectations become apparent is when we look at the roles that people play in society. In Article 13, Section 2 of the 1987 Philippine Constitution, it states that the promotion of social justice shall include a commitment to create economic opportunities based on freedom of initiative and self-reliance. The virtue of social justice promotes equality of opportunities for everyone for economic, social, and political aspects. It states here the freedom of initiative and self-reliance. It means it is up to the individual. You can only get what you work for. For example, an industrious man who works harder than the other man, and of course, he gains more money or can have higher economic standing compared to the one who's lazy. Although we Filipino people have the same opportunity for the economic aspect in our lives, it still depends on our initiative and self-reliance of how much we can put our time to our work. Freedom of initiative is the ability of a person to assess and do things independently. Self-reliance, it is an individual's ability to do things and make decisions independently. It is having the confidence in exercising one's judgment. Just like what I said earlier, that people should choose whatever they want to do without anyone interfering because they have a right to manage their own affairs, judgments, and provisions.
Other important points emphasized in relation to social justice. First one is the goals of the social justice center on the welfare of the people and economic stability. It means the goal of social justice is the full and equal participation of all groups in the society that is mutually shaped to meet their needs. Social justice may be broadly understood as the fair and compassionate distribution of the fruits and of economic growth. The second one is social justice is the virtue by which individuals and groups fulfill their obligations to the society. It means social justice composes economic justice. Social justice is a virtue which guides us in creating those organized human interactions, what we call institutions. In turn, social institutions, when justly organized, provides us with access to what is good for the person, both individually and our associations with others. Social justice also imposes on each of us personal responsibility to work with others to design and continually perfect our institutions as tools for personal and social development. The third one is social justice was expanded to cover people's political, economic, civil, social, and cultural rights. It means social justice is the view that everyone deserves equal economic, political, and social rights and opportunities. Social workers aim to open the doors of access and opportunity for everyone, particularly those in greatest need. Lastly, social justice contribute positively to the complete well-being of the fellow man. While formal definition for social justice vary in wording, these are commonalities among them: equal rights, equal opportunity, and equal treatment, which makes our fellow men contribute positively in the society. Here's some issues on social justice. First one is poverty. For instance, poverty is considered a social challenge because it relates to how society views people's lives. One way to help reduce poverty is to provide greater and more equal education opportunities since may find themselves living in poverty due to lack of education. The next one is red tagging. Red tagging in the Philippines refers to the malicious blacklisting of individuals or organizations critical or not fully supportive of the actions of a sitting government administration in the country. Lastly is the plight of the jeepney drivers. Drivers and operators don't earn a lot, especially in lockdowns or post-pandemic. Next. Social injustice. It refers to the situation and issue relating to the unequal and abusive relationships among people, particularly relating to human rights violations, exploitation, abuse, and discrimination directed towards certain individuals or groups. Other way around, social justice refers to how unjust actions are being done in the society. This can occur in situations where the unequal gets treated equally, while the equals get treated unequally. Next, please. Here's some issues on social injustice. First one is poverty. Poverty is injustice, and all people deserve to be treated with dignity. Each day we can choose to ignore inequality, or we can choose to take actions that will create change. The second one is child labor. Child labor is the exploitation of children who are deprived of their childhood by work that prevents them from attending schools and other reasons. And lastly is the plight of farmers and the farm workers. The drought, plague of grasshoppers, boll weevils, rising costs, falling prices, and high interest rates made increasingly difficult to make a living as a farmer, and it's injustice to them as well.
So here we have the Action Program for Judicial Reform, or also known as APJR, which was founded in 2001 based on the vision and mission espoused by then Chief Justice Hilario G. Davide Jr. So just for background, Chief Justice Davide Jr. was a Filipino lawyer, professor, diplomat, constitutionalist, and a former politician. He also served as the 20th Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of the Philippines and the head of the judicial branch of government from November 1998 to December 2005. So, yan yung na-establish pag 2001 between sa iyahang term na ni-end pag 2005. So, the book stated 6 of the objectives of the action program for the judicial reform. So, number 1 is the improvement of judicial system and procedures, including streamlining rules and establishing alternative dispute resolution mechanisms. So, when we say alternative dispute resolution mechanisms, it refers to private mechanisms of resolving disputes outside of the court process. So this allows parties to tailor their process in order to incorporate the needs of both parties. So this type of resolution compromises all mechanisms for resolving legal disputes without resorting to litigation. So when we say litigation, it is the process of taking legal action. And when we say streamlining, it means nga to make something more efficient and effective by doing a simpler and faster working method. And I think that is important in social justice, especially dili tanan tao ing anak ka privilege to intensify ang process sa pagresolbar kung unsa man gali nga issue nga ilang na face. So if dili necessary na maabot jud og court, there are barangay justice systems nga makaresolba og issue. So ma-fix ra gihapon no ang mga kakulian miski dili maabot og korte. And I think sad in reality naman yung mga issue nga dili jud necessary maabot og korte. Ato man na discuss before, I think last sem, nga naay mga complaints nga maski unsa pa na ka-hurtful para nimo, naay legal nga level para maabot na siya og korte. Next is institutional development by establishing a judiciary that is independent from politics. So, nag-wonder tingali mo judiciary. Di ba part na sa government? So, how come ma-independent man siya from politics? So, when we say independent judiciary manggod, it means na the rule of law should be respected and judges are not subject to pressure and influence, and they are free to make their decisions based solely on fact and law. So, nganong importante man ang independent judicial system? So, just like what I said before, para ma-ensure nga the rule of law is respected. And by rule of law, it means that the creation of laws, the enforcement, and the relationship among legal rules are regulated and fair. So it means nga tanan citizens and institution within a particular country kay accountable of the same laws. Nganong importante siya sa social justice? Kay ang rule of law manggod, nag-ingon man to nga no one, including the most highly placed official, is above the law. So di ba klaro na kaayo? Justice, fair, And maski unsay imong posisyon, basta nakabuhat ka og crime, you are to face legal consequences fairly. The next one would be human resource development, particularly the improvement of legal education. So, mao ni siya. Dapat ang mga tao knowledgeable enough about our institution, about unsa ang mga legal mga processes na pwede nila mabuhat if ever they are to encounter mga issues. Next is institutional integrity development to counter corruption within the judiciary. So when we say integrity, it means to unite. So it is important no nga ang atong judiciary, di ba sila man pud sila baya ang mahog mo punish sa mga violators. So dapat sila pud mismo dili sila enablers or even doers of the crime itself. Number 5 is better access to justice by the poor through affordable and effective means. So mauna ni siya. Matod pa nila, so ang social justice programs assures that those who are less favored in life should be more favored in law. So I think mao ni nga quote ang gi-implement ani nga objective. And lastly is to establish reform support systems by educating the public. So when we say reforms, it means it is the modernization of the law by bringing it into accord with the current conditions of the society. So siguro if in order for the public to give their support or their kanang agree sila, diba, sa law, we also have to educate them unsay proseso ana, unsay purpose ana nga law, necessary ba gyud nga ingana usbon, necessary ba nga ingana fair ba siya if i-approve na nga type of law. So wala siya, dapat ang public sad na ay knowledge about our judiciary para ila mag-give ilahang support or ilahang agreement or ilahang opinion. So that's it for the action program for judicial reform. So next we also have here the action program for judicial reform projects. So these are the projects na na-establish sa APJR. Number 1 is the development of a framework for a national justice information system to assist in the implementation of case flow management in Region 7, which is us, the Central Visayas. So, ang meaning sa National Justice Information System, isa ni siya ka-ICT platform that will address fragmentation in the justice system by developing information management systems. So, ang meaning sa case flow management is when a particular court intervenes to a proceeding nga slow ang progress. So, nganong makatabang man ang NJIS or the National Justice Information System sa case flow management? Kay mo-intervene ra baya ang particular court sa kanang proceeding. So, dili siya ang court nga nag-handle originally sa case. Gamit ang NJIS, kay paspas na lang ang pag-share or pag-give information sa court nga mo-intervene, di ba nga? Ang maudan dahil ni ang mga files, ang mga documents nga involve aning a particular case. So, number 2, the integration of the barangay justice system in the judicial process. So, just like what I said in the previous slide, na ay mga issues nga dili necessary i-adto og court. So, nindot kayo no nga ang barangay justice system ilagi integrate or ilagi became part of the judicial process. Na-discuss na po ni at I think last sem nga part ang barangay justice system as a first process before ka makaingon nga kana nga particular crime or complaint kay maabot og korte. Number 3 is the improvement of communication and connectivity among the courts through technology such as internet connection and Wi-Fi. And I think pwede nato i-relate sa first project kay since ang NJIS is an ICT platform man related just technology. Number 4 is better access to research materials for members of the judiciary, particularly fiscals and public defenders to help them in their preparation for cases. So, by the way, fiscals are legal officers day. So lastly is the development of case management system to track the status of corruption cases. So when we say case management system, isa ni siya ka-system that enables a particular institution to track and store information in a centralized location and report on their data. So diba, nindot kayo kay organized and categorized ang mga files regarding that particular case. We also have here social justice and community action. So social justice man daw is imposed by the government to guarantee the right of all the people to equality of opportunity man daw. So how will you imply equality? These are the things to remember before conducting a community action. So your community plan should take into consideration the diverse characteristics and backgrounds of the community members. So dapat you're fully aware na dili ra usa ka klase nga tao ang involved sa imong plano. It should be accessible for everyone regardless of their background and characteristics. Next is community plans should ensure that the needs of the community are identified. When we say the needs of the community are identified, you shouldn't make unnecessary plans, diba? You should know first unsa ang mga things nga need jud o aksyonan, need tagaan o pagtagad for kuan pod for your action to be effective and naa siya purpose, diba? Na ay palulungan ang imong giplanuhan, kabaw ka unsa ang issue, kabaw ka unsa ang needs para magka-sense ang imong plano. Next is community plans should be democratic. So when we say democratic, planning and decision making should involve the members of the community and the concerned groups. Imo dapat sila i-consult if unsa sa ilahang paglantaw or ilahang opinion regarding sa imuhang community action. Next is community plans should come up with the best program that would benefit the entire community. When we say the best program, diba? It means all members of the community should be accommodated. No one should be excluded from benefiting from the community plan. Based on their socioeconomic status, gender, age, educational attainment, and etc. Dapat tanan, in order for your plan to be the best, it is nice man tingali nga daghan ang maka-benefit. So for example, a community plan which wishes to implement a teaching program that will benefit the youth in the community. So they should also ensure that all the youth in the community are accommodated. Organizations that volunteer to teach far-flung communities, especially indigenous communities, embody the application of social justice in community action. So, diba? Walay pili. That's how you imply social justice. Walay nahabilin. Matod pa sa to, no trolls left behind. So, diba? Walay mahabilin, walay maka-feel nga, wala, nakakuha lagi siya ang privilege niya ako kay wala. Dili siya mag-cause o feeling of injustice but towards individuals. Diha man na magsugod ko, diba? If makakita ka og something nga nakuha sa uban, niya, ikaw wala, niya kabaw ka, you're fully aware nga you need that too. Kailangan na siya nimo, dili siya wants but need niya, wala siya na provide nimo, diba? Diha na maka-feel ang mga tao sa society og injustice. So lastly, community plans should include the full involvement of community members in implementing the community plan. Given that the plan will benefit the entire community, the full participation of community members show a commitment to action as well as concern for the betterment of their fellow community members. In this manner, community members themselves uphold not only their personal welfare, but also the welfare of others. So that would be all for our discussion regarding social justice, and we hope you learned something from it. And even though in reality the law is not always fair, surely the law is just. So thank you for listening and have a great day ahead.